You guys aren't listening to me. You can win this sleeping bag, a new bow, a trip to Oregon, a Yeti cooler, a Leupold spotting scope, a Mountain Tough membership, a Go Hunt membership. And all you got to do is two things. One, you got to go to the Altitude Show YouTube channel and comment on the video that's pinned on top that says 100th episode giveaway. Number two is you got to subscribe to the Altitude Show's YouTube channel. If you want to be as cool as me and be podcasting in the new Peaks Solace 15 sleeping bag, by the way, I'm just copying Gritty. He did this and he looked really cool. So here I go. Gritty, this one's for you. If you guys want to win this, go do those two things. Is this the best sleeping bag ever made for the backcountry hunter? Let's check it out. As you guys, I've been very open. I'm affiliated with Peaks Equipment. I have been for several years. So I'm not totally unbiased, but I also get to work on this project and be really, really involved with it, which I think is actually makes my opinion even more valid because I know what went into this. This sleeping bag that I'm wearing right now is called the Solace 15. We just launched this a couple weeks ago, and it is an amazing sleeping bag. And I'm going to tell you why. I'm going to tell you what all my favorite features are, the facts and figures with this thing. I'm also going to tell you about some of my personal experiences with it. I've used it from Montana to Colorado to Idaho to Oregon. I've used it for 2 years now. So the whole idea of Peaks is we are setting out to make the backcountry experience better, because when you can thrive in the backcountry, you can have more success. The reason most people come home from the backcountry is because they're uncomfortable. They're tired, they're hungry, they're worn out, and you want to come home. There is a way to have comfort in the backcountry without sacrificing carrying too much weight. But let's talk about weight for a second. Weight's an interesting topic. I believe, and we believe, our industry have overhyped weight a little bit too much. Weight is important. It's a very important factor because you don't want to carry 1 million pounds in the backcountry. But it's not the entire conversation, because you can cut weight while also cutting things that are very important to keep you out there longer. So you have to weigh and balance those decisions. So when we were making this Solace 15 sleeping bag, that was a top priority in the conversation. How do we make something that was still lightweight, packable, but that allows you to sleep and rest better, and potentially with some other functionality that helps the hunt, enhance the hunt as well? Can we do both? And I think the answer is yes, we have done both. So let's talk about the bag. I'm sure you guys have heard about it, but if you hadn't, it's called the Solace 15. And it's available at peaksequipment.com, gohunt.com. Okay. So the whole idea of this is, as I said, is sleep better, hunt better. When you rest better, you're going to hunt better. When people aren't rested, they make terrible decisions. We've all woke up sleep deprived, and you're not sharp. You're not making great decisions. And when you're hunting, especially if you're in the backcountry for these animals that are extremely hard to find in the first place, you have to make great decisions. So how do you do that? You got to get good rest. And there's lots of different components to that, but your sleeping bag is like your safe haven at night. It's like what you look forward to going and getting into. You look forward to going in there, if you're in late season, building a fire in your little stove, having your dinner. You're going to spend sometimes 12, 14 hours in this thing if it's in those later seasons where it's dark forever. So why not make it an experience as opposed to just something that you crawl in and out of, that's simply designed to be the lightest thing out there without any other thought going into it? So the Solace 15, we decided we can do both. This bag comes in at 2.5 pounds, the 850 fill, hydrophobic down, using the outer fabric is a Toray fabric called Airtastic. It's windproof, water resistant, and durable. So we started there, but that's just part of the story. Obviously, we talked about and played with what features could we add to the bag to, again, not just make it something you crawl in and out of. So I'm going to go through my favorite features of this bag and kind of why I like them. So we're going to start with the arms free port. Now, the arms free port is not necessarily a new idea. It's been around in various companies in the outdoor world and even in the hunting world. However, we wanted to do it in a way that was a little bit more functional and with a little higher comfort without losing heat. So our designers designed these baffles that when you bring your arm in, and if you're watching the video, you can see this, the baffle automatically closes and there's very little to no heat loss. You also don't have to contend with a zipper rubbing on your armpit, which I think is pretty cool because I think that's pretty uncomfortable personally. But why would you want your arms free in a sleeping bag? Well, the answer to that is very easy. When you're in your tent or your teepee, you're cooking, you're scrolling on your phone, killing time, listening to a book, you're stoking the fire, you're glassing, you're getting your gear organized, you're podcasting like I am right now. But you're doing all kinds of things. You want your arms free, and you don't want to unzip your sleeping bag every time you're doing that. But you also, if you want, and the conditions are right, you can get out of your teepee or your tent and glass and even shoot, whatever you need to do. You can use your sleeping bag as an additional part of your entire clothing system, which we can talk about. But for the most part, it's so your arms are free to do all the things that you're doing in the tent or the teepee. So the arms free port is really cool. You're not losing a lot of heat. It's not uncomfortable. And you can actually keep your arms functional, which is pretty cool. We also decided to go with the center zip because it just seems more, especially to me, I prefer center zip. I've been using a center zip for almost 10 years. It's right here, goes right down the center. I don't got to roll over my side and do it, like try to find my zipper and it's under my leg. It's right here. It's very easy to get to. It's much more functional in my opinion. The next feature I want to show you guys, I can't show you on the video, but I'll do some B-roll and show it to you, but is this stretch zone that we put down towards 3/4 of the way down the bag. And the reason we did that is because a lot of bags are, again, to minimize weight, they narrow it down so much at the bottom that it's very uncomfortable for your legs and your hips and your knees. So we added the stretch zone, which allows you to move around a little bit, have a little bit more mobility in the bag, again, to give you some more comfort. It drives me crazy feeling constricted and claustrophobic like that. The foot box is the next area that we worked on. The foot box is a very important area because you don't want heat to escape. Your feet get really cold. We've all had our feet get cold at night. So we had to figure out a way to try to not compress the down so much because that's kind of what causes a lot of that heat loss, but also give enough room to where you can move your feet around and keep them warm. So we added a little bit extra room. We used a different fabric on the outside, which is more durable and water resistant, so your feet don't get wet from condensation or whatever. But the biggest thing is we added the room. And so the whole bag is 12% more spacious than the average bag on the market. And 70% of that is located in the lower half. So the lower half of your body has all that room to stay cozy and comfy. All right. The next feature I want to talk about is what we call the BQS, the bag to quilt system, which for those of you that like using a quilt, I personally don't use a quilt ever, but it is a pretty cool feature. I'll probably use it in the earlier seasons when it's not as cold at night. Or maybe it starts off a little warmer at night. You start off using a quilt, and then as the night moves on, you change it back over to a sleeping bag when it gets colder. Whatever. But if you like using a quilt, all you got to do with the sleeping bag is stow away the hood, unzip it, flip it around, and you got yourself a quilt. So instead of having to own a quilt and a sleeping bag, you can kind of get both done with this, which is pretty cool. The next cool feature is this 3-way zipper system that we have, YKK zippers. But here's the deal. My bladder is awful. I have to pee like 3 times a night. And so when I go outside to pee, I don't want to get out of my sleeping bag necessarily. So I can literally work this 3-way zipper, walk outside my teepee, take a piss, come back in. You can also use it to air out. Maybe it's too hot inside the bag, whatever. You can do that. It's pretty functional. If you play with it, you'll see what I mean. I really like it. Temperature rating wise, this is a 15-degree bag. But it was rated at Kansas State University. It's down to 13 degrees as lower limit. What I do is I carry this all seasons, 15-degree bags all season, because I carry a puffy jacket and pant that I can use if it gets colder. But I will say this sleeps pretty warm. So if you're a warm sleeper, you're going to be good. Everybody's different. There's no magic answer to how low this will go. So, but what I do is if it gets in those colder temperatures, I'll just wear my puffy jacket and or my pants, and I can take it way lower than 15 degrees. This bag is awesome. I highly recommend you check it out. And you can use my code altitude at peaksequipment.com. It gets you 10% off. it's something you should check out. So anyways, I appreciate you guys. Check it out. Solace 15 from Peaks Equipment. Boom.